Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 4 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get ready to begin this meeting. I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Please, raise your hand inside the, like in the participants window if you can hear me.
He said something about me, say that I'm getting on this different computer that I got here.
Okay. Please mute yourself if you're not muted. Everyone should be muted, but I know sometimes Zoom allows people just to kind of mute themselves. And it looks like everyone can hear me. All right, thank you so much. This meeting will be recorded, so for those of you that may have teachers or have someone that can't make the meeting, it's going to be recorded and posted on the Quest for Success webpage, which is will be on the LDOE website. My name is Ted Holmes. For those of you who may have not met me, I oversee all things associated with the Quest for Success course. I've met many of you if you've had face-to-face training. I know some of you may have attended virtual training. I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, but I oversee the Quest for Success program and course, and a lot of times you correspond to me when you have questions about your certificates or anything associated with training. And I'll be kind of leading this webinar today. Along with me will be Spencer Kuiper. Spencer, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, Spencer Kuiper here with Caterpillar Schools, and I'll be here helping to kind of facilitate the training today.
Thanks, Spencer. So these are our objectives today. We've already done our introductions. Next, we're going to go over the hybrid and virtual guidance as far as Quest for Success. The original activity, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Then we're going to go over the alternative activity that was created in order to facilitate hybrid and online learning. Spencer's going to walk us through the modified teacher resource as well as the student resource, and then we'll go ahead and close out. At the end, we're going to take questions, so please type any questions that you may have inside the chat box, and at the end, we'll try to answer any questions that you may have about this particular webinar and these resources. So for our hybrid and virtual guidance, the only activities that were modified are those that may be challenging to complete in a virtual environment. Most of you who've attended face-to-face training have done the tower exercise where you stack the cups or stack the balloons and work together as a team. We know that in a virtual environment, that activity is virtually impossible to complete. So that was one of the activities, for example, that was created. Other activities such as creating a vision board, although the students may have completed that activity in class, we feel that that's something that could be easily adjusted by the teacher in order to offer it in an online or in a hybrid virtual setting using PowerPoint or some other resource. So once again, just those resources or those activities that we thought were really hard to complete are the ones that we focus on in creating alternate activities for. All resources for Unit 2 and additional units under development will be located on the LDOE Quest for Success website. Once again, that is on our main webpage, and at the end, I'll show you how to navigate to that website for those of you that may not be familiar with that website and how to get there. So for this unit, the activity that we created an alternative activity for was the obstacle course. During the first week of class, or once you get to that activity, the students are asked to use their desks or use things within the classroom. Some teachers even take students to the gym and have them to create an obstacle course and have students walk through this obstacle course. We know that some of you have just started school this week or have yet to start school, or you still have a large amount of students that may be attending school online, so they can't complete that activity. But the goals of the activity is to teach students how to create effective teams and practice teamwork. And so in order to do that, another activity was created that still that still was designed to hit on those objectives and those those activities, that we thought that those students need to know in order to be able to complete the Quest for Success course successfully and still get the learning objectives that we wanted the students to get out of the course. Also remember that the original activity is always an option if it can be performed safely. These alternate activities are activities that we create in order to help you facilitate during this time as we work our way through COVID and through reopening schools safely. As I stated, we created these Quest for Success hybrid resources in order to help you facilitate through any activity that you may have questions on, have challenges completing. And so in order to kind of help lay out how we see these activities working, we created a Quest for Success hybrid resource guide, a crosswalk per se, that's located on our website. And so this image that you see on the screen is a screenshot of the actual document. And you notice how we laid out units 1 through 8, which are the units for Quest for Success, the different performance tasks that are found inside each unit, the pacing for each unit. When we first rolled this course out, the pacing was a big concern. Please remember that pacing is only a it's a guide. Some people may finish this unit in 9 days. Some people may finish it in 12 days. But the pacing is just so you know where to stay around the number of days that you complete this course. Right, you complete each unit. So don't panic if you're going into day 11, to complete this unit. So as you can see, if you look at Unit 3, effective teams, the sum is greater than the parts. The original course, the activity obstacle course, the original activity is hyperlinked. And then next to that, we have the online activity option or the hybrid activity option, which consists of building a winning team bracket. And we have the modified teacher guide that's linked, as well as a modified student resource that's currently linked. So you should be able to click on those links and take you directly to the resources, that you can find those activities. Please keep in mind that while these additional resources were created, it's still to be used in collaboration with the original teacher resource and student resource, meaning that inside this resource, you're going to see references to perhaps Unit 1 or perhaps an early learning objective that's a part of the whole course. So these additional activities are to be used in conjunction with the overall resources that were provided for you to complete the course. As resources are updated, they will be added to this document in the online activity option column. So currently we're working on Unit 3. As soon as Unit 3 resources are updated and approved, we're going to hyperlink those in this document. And so you can always go back to the same document and find any updated resource as they roll out. And we'll be having webinars as we roll those out also. Now we're going to dive into the alternate virtual activity a little bit. So Unit 2, Effective Teams Modified Teacher Resource Guide. Spencer has created all of the additional resources to look almost identical to the original resources. So when you completed the Quest for Success training and you went over the different units, you should also see that the additional resource looks very similar to the original document that you've been used to reading as you taught the course. However, you will see a section inside the document that says modifications, and it's going to describe how the activity was modified in order for you to be able to complete it in a hybrid environment. As part of that modification, you're going to see virtual teacher notes. You're going to see notes on teaching the course in an asynchronous manner and a synchronous manner. So you see on this document, we have our remote learning tip that gives you insight on, like, if you're using an LMS, a learning management system, how should you think about putting it into that system? I know that, you know, many schools throughout the state use many different systems. So for the most part, it's agnostic. And while, you know, this is a way of doing things, we understand that your school system is going to vary. So please take this activity as a guide for you to be able to like successfully facilitate this online learning, or, you know, facilitate this exercise. You know, we know that things are going to vary depending on the system you use and the type of schedule that you may be on. As I stated before, you know, you see the synchronous instruction as well as the asynchronous instruction. This is a screenshot of the student resource. Like the teacher resource, the student resource is structured similar to the original document that you would see in the course that lays out what the student should be doing. The Modified Teacher Resource Guide also includes detailed guidance on completing the activity. So as I stated, you know, these documents are created to go hand in hand with the original documents. You know, so you should be reading the documents together. Some things may not be indicated in the student resource. That's just design of student resource. But, you know, you'll see that the teacher resource goes more in detail about what the teacher should be doing and about what should be happening in the class. So if you refer to the original documents, the original teacher resource, the modified resource, the original student guide resource, and the modified student resource, you know, then like you should be able to have all your questions answered. It's key that you read over all the documents and that you are familiar with the curriculum. You know, for those of you that may not have attended Quest for Success training and trying to read these documents, it may be a little bit confusing. These documents were created like specifically for teachers or administrators who have attended our training. Now we're going to go into a live walkthrough of the actual resources. Like we're going to begin with our Modified Teacher Resource Guide. And now I'll turn it over to Spencer and let him walk us through this Modified Teacher Resource Guide.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted. Ted, are you good with scrolling?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, cool, buddy. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Spencer Kuiper, and I am an instructional technologist here in Cataparis Schools. I was one of the co-authors of the original Quest for Success content, and before that, I taught Journey to Careers for years, like many of you. And you know, the content is fantastic. It's great quality. That's definitely written to the point where like you could pull a lot out of it. The intent of the content is so, I guess, pinpointed on developing the dispositions that kids need for 21st century jobs. Rewriting some of the lessons or giving alternatives to like modified settings, it was really important for me to first off adhere to and respect and honor the intent of the lessons that were created prior to that. So with that in mind, the first lesson that I created or modified was lesson 1, communication is key, is the key. And that was located in Unit 2, Effective Teams. And so with that in mind, I tried to pull as much content over from the original activity as possible. So that way, for those of you who have taught the lesson prior to that, or for those of you who are coming in, when you return to the original curriculum, or if you are modifying your instruction prior to, or modifying your current instruction, but bringing the experience of the prior curriculum with you, it's not so much of a heavy lift for you and your kids, of course. So the modified activity is called Building a Winning Team Bracket, and it really is pulling from the schema or the background knowledge of what the students covered in Unit 1. So with that in mind, we start thinking about content like understanding who they are as learners, who they are as potential employees, their personality types, and how they work best with both people and assets and all different types of structures, whether it be academic or professional. And so with that in mind, I'm having the students pull from that knowledge of Unit 1 and really trying to utilize that in a group setting to think about what dynamics of people work best together. Human resource management, essentially. So building a winning team bracket, it's going to take the same amount of time-ish as the activity that it was replacing. It may take a bit longer, but as those of you who have taught this course know, many of these activities do take just a tad bit longer. But the value of the lesson really comes in from its ability to be transferred or modified into a remote setting. So you can read the description there. I'm not going to read that to you, but for you, as you go throughout facilitating this course, paying close attention to the teacher tips that have been included throughout the lesson, those are going to be presented through the lens of both synchronous and asynchronous instruction. Now, synchronous being, of course, either you're teaching this course live with either 50 to 75% of your students in the classroom with you, or live through a platform like Google Meet, Zoom, so on and so forth. And so just know that if something is referred to as like web conferencing software or synchronous, it could include live face-to-face, like organic teaching, like you're used to, or it could be something like Zoom or Google Meet. I didn't want to necessarily promote one platform over the other, so you're just going to kind of have to read between the lines there. So looking at the asynchronous piece, that's the one that, of course, is the biggest departure from what we're used to as teachers. That's going to be the piece that you're scaffolding content for students to kind of cull through and absorb on their own. And that could be through the use of like instructional videos that you've included, slide decks, Google assignments, Canvas assignments, those types of things that you've kind of assembled for students to cull through and kind of meet the objectives at a more self-paced, self-directed fashion. Okay. So those are the two big differences, and those will be consistent throughout all of the modified documentation. Excuse me. So if you're thinking about this at like a strategic standpoint, there are three things that you really want to kind of pay attention to. The first being that document that Ted listed initially with the crosswalk of what activities are in the process of being modified. That's the first thing to kind of pay attention to. Followed by 2 and 3, which are the teacher resources, which are, of course, the teacher-facing materials that we're providing to you in a modified fashion. And then we've got your third piece, which is the student resource, or the student-facing material to accompany that teacher-facing resource. So those are 3 layers that we're trying to add in terms of support for you in your classroom. So when we start getting into the activity itself, after the remote learning tip and the synchronous and asynchronous instruction, the core of this activity is for students to be presented with a scenario that they must assemble a team that they themselves are able to choose the personality types to best fit that scenario. And so you'll see here in just a moment, in terms of the student resource, what those profiles are. But what the students are going to have to do is they're going to have to recall what they covered in the prior unit in terms of the 16 different personality types, and then look to see what personality type specifically would maybe best fit that open vacancy. And so Ted, if you'll scroll down just one more page, you'll see really the gist of what this document has to provide. And this graphic organizer allows you to present students with a scenario. Now, of course, you guys are the teachers, so you're going to know whether you want to present this as a group activity or if you want to provide this as an individual activity. Of course, if it's asynchronous, the lightest lift there would be an independent activity. But at all levels, I would really definitely recommend you modeling this, at least if you can synchronously, if not, making a short video so that way you can model the thought process of how to execute this activity properly. But you'll notice here that there are 5 different open positions, and there have been personality traits that have been added to each one of these. And so what students are going to have to do is to use their knowledge of the 16 different personality types. Maybe they didn't cover those in a broad survey. Maybe they just went a little deeper in the first unit in terms of what their personality type was. But now what the students are going to have to do is sort of explore what personality types they feel would be a best fit for all of these open vacancies and why they think so. They must provide that rationale in terms of why they believe that particular personality type is going to be the best fit for that open position. Okay. And remember, I just want to go ahead and plug that if you have any questions about this, anything that we've covered so far, use that chat box, because we'll definitely be leveraging that here near the end of the meeting. And so Ted, if you would go back to the teacher guidance. And so if you're using this with kids, you are going to want to take that graphic organizer and put it into some sort of format that's going to work best for you. For those of you who are my Google friends, you're going to want to use, personally, I would use Google Slides. I really don't care for Google Docs as a graphic organizer system. You could very easily go in and make it like an interactive notebook page out of Google Slides if you could do that. And then of course my Microsoft friends with PowerPoint, and so on and so forth. You know what platforms your district is promoting right now. And so definitely follow the guidelines of what your district is promoting, and then adapt the content to match what constraints that you're kind of operating in, or under, I should say. All right. So looking forward, we do have a couple of opportunities for formative assessment. We do have some questioning built in. You can kind of build those in, bake those into the activity itself. You can ask those, pull these up, and you can even do some entry tickets, exit ticket type situations if you feel that that is more appropriate. If you're teaching synchronously, you can ask students to kind of think about these questions live and then gather their feedback live. Or if you are teaching asynchronously, you could always post these in something like a discussion board or a Google question, depending on what learning management system that you have access to, if you have one at all. All right. There is a video resource to kind of give the kids a brain break near the end of the lesson, to have them consider how Google actually uses these types of techniques to build the best type teams for depending on the project that they have. And so that's a really quick kind of 2-minute, 12-second video that you can provide for students. And of course, that's the same video that is referring back to the original activity. And then you have the discussion at the end, which you can have with students verbally, or if asynchronously, you can then post and kind of gather student feedback that way. These are the same, many of the same articles at the end of the article, at the end of the teacher guidance. But in terms of providing guidance and best practice for this activity, it is really just making sure that if you're offering one type of accommodation or one type of opportunity to your virtual students, and I know that many of you are teaching in like hybrid settings where you've got live students mixed with virtual students, and sometimes those are kind of coalescing in this really unique opportunity right now of hosting both at the same time. If that is the case, making sure that you're planning for those and posting those same opportunities for your virtual kids as you are for your live kids. And hopefully we have kind of captured that here. But if that seems kind of confusing or not as fleshed out as it needs to be, reach out. Ted will pass that on to me, and we'll make sure that we're baking that in a little bit more surface level as we move forward with Unit 3 and other units.
All right. Thank you so much, Spencer. Okay, just one thing that I do want to point out, so while most of the hyperlinks that we're using are original, there are a couple of new hyperlinks. So please stay in contact with your IT team to make sure that those links are on your whitelist as far as being accessible to your students. So I just want to kind of, flag that. I know over the years we've had a few problems with links being accessible. So please let your principals know, your TTE supervisor and your IT department know that you will need access, your students will need access to certain links. As far as the documents location, so all of our documents and videos are going to be located on the Quest for Success website, and I'm going to walk you from the beginning of the LDOE website to get there. So if you're not familiar with navigating our website, like if you go down to quick links, there's going to be a link to All Things Jumpstart. Quest for Success does fall under that area. And once you get to our All Things Jumpstart website, if you scroll to the bottom, you're going to see under our Jumpstart 2.0 logo, Jumpstart 2.0, yay! Like you're going to see all these circles down here with the different links to different things that we offer. And Quest for Success has its own little bubble down here that you're going to click on, and you'll be able to find everything associated with Quest for Success on this website. You're going to see the curriculum. We are adding the resources for each unit that we create to the unit box that contains that curriculum material for that unit. We're also adding the Quest for Success hybrid resource, what I showed you all down here in our administrative support file box. So if you click on it, you're going to see that document, and like the most current activities added, you're going to be hyperlinked over here in the right column that says online activity option. So that's how you're going to get to all those resources. As far as the video, where it's going to be located at, like it's our goal to add the video up here under important information. If that changes, then I will push out information to show where it's going to be located at, but it is going to be located on this website. As usual, many of you were in our training, face-to-face trainings, and you were asked to join our Slack channel. Slack, our Slack is a secured website, like community for teachers to form a professional learning network. I know many of you are the only teachers that teach Quest in your school systems. So a lot of teachers come into our Slack channel and they share resources, whether it's on each individual unit, whether just ask a question and so forth. So, you can see we have units 1 to unit 8 for teachers to ask questions and to go in and share resources with each other. So please, continue to use that as you may create resources, or maybe you're able to ask questions, or you may have be able to provide answers to your fellow educator. So please be cognizant of that. So now we're going to jump into questions. Okay. I'm in the group chat. Actually, I don't see very few questions. If anybody have any questions, please type them in the chat room. Yes, so only the activities for unit 2 will be posted currently on the website. As the other units are rolled out, we will update it to the website. As I shared before, many of the other resources can be can be done, whether it's using something you have access to like PowerPoint, or you may have to kind of go online and find other ways in order to help kind of transition that over to a virtual or hybrid type setting. Like I encourage you, like if you all have a learning specialist, I know they have different types in different school systems, someone specialized in curriculum, to get with them, to get assistance if you may need help modifying anything that we may not modify, just due to the current schedule that we have set up to modify things. Yes, it will be posted on the website later over in the area that I shared with you. So we're going to post the webinar recording as well as just have the slides posted also. And definitely, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. So I'm seeing a question, do you recommend Google Meet for breakout groups? Whatever software that your school uses, as Spencer stated, please use that. Some school systems may use Zoom, some may use Google, some may use Microsoft Teams. So I would say, as far as what system you use to offer online communities or communication with your students in a synchronous manner, please contact your school system and see what's being offered. Like the way that this, like the course is set up and written, like it was written in order to allow flexibility when it comes to assessments. Some of you may be offering this course to 8th graders, some may be offering the course to 12th graders. And so how this course is offered is going to look different depending on what level you offering the course to, but also the capability of your school system, whether you're in a hybrid environment, whether you're 5 days a week, or whether you're a day on, day off. So the course was written to allow those flexibilities in offerings, but we do want your students to still get the most out of the course. And we want you to try to complete all of the activities that you can with fidelity in order that way so students can get a lot out of the course. So I received the question asking, what are the sites that we need to share with the students? Like you go to the teacher resource, like it's going to have those links for the sites that need to be shared. So also some of the student resources are going to also have hyperlinks. So initially, when you first start teaching Quest for Success, there is a whitelist that's located on our site under the admin box, and it have most of the hyperlinks. So if you added all those hyperlinks that's located on that whitelist, the only thing that you should be making sure that students have access to are going to be any links that are in the modified teacher resource guide, as well as in the student resource.
So Ted, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Spencer.
Sure. So one of the things that you guys will see throughout the entire modification, like all the modifications that we're making for all of you, is the use or the suggestion of using some sort of learning agenda or checklist to provide some direction for online learners. So if you have virtual learners of any kind, some of you were teaching like on a hybrid model where some kids are at school on some days and some are at home, the others while kind of like remoting into your classroom, or if you have just straight virtual students on your roster mixed with your face-to-face students as well. Using online learning agendas or checklists are definitely the route to go. They're great for your kids who need accommodations. They're great for regular learners. Pretty much all learners benefit from having some sort of like agenda or checklist to go by. And that will be a modification that you'll see in all the guidance that we push out on in terms of like the modifications for remote learning. But if you are interested in doing that and you see a benefit for that for your students, you know your students better than anyone, you can use pretty much anything to get that work done. You can just put it in a Google Doc. If you have Canvas, you can put it directly in a Canvas. If you're using Google Classroom, when you create an assignment, you can just add a bulleted or numbered list. Really break it up to where if you're wanting students to produce a specific product or an action or do something particular, you can put that in checklist form, and that is just beneficial for everyone. As adults, I don't have to tell you that, but for kids especially, if you can't see them and really reinforce those positive behaviors and those desired outcomes, use those checklists. Those are big in online learning.
Okay, thank you so much, Spencer. So what we're going to do about the links is I'm going to work with Spencer just to get the actual URLs, addresses, and we're going to add them to the whitelist that we already have. So this list is extensive. It's a really long list. So what I'm going to do is as I add them to the list, I'm going to highlight the links that we add to the list. That way, that you're not giving your IT person a 2-page or 3-page long list of links every time. So as we update the different units inside the hybrid document, we're also going to update those links on the on the whitelist. So you could just give those specific links to your IT person, and they should know what to do with them. So we'll go ahead and we'll make sure that we make that update. Okay. So I think that we're close to the end of our time. Like there's no more questions. I'm gonna I'll stay on the webinar probably like another 5 minutes after it's over if you have any questions. But definitely please feel free. My email address is listed on the slide, tedrick.holmes@la.gov. Please feel free to contact me. Like if I can answer a question, I'll find your answer. But I reply pretty quickly. So definitely hit me up if you need anything. And with that said, we're going to end this webinar. We'll post our upcoming webinar will be posted in the newsletter. So as soon as we get that new date on the upcoming webinar, we'll make sure that we push it out to y'all so you have it, so you can attend. The next unit that we plan on updating is going to be specifically Unit 3, dealing with problem solving. So that will be posted, and I will see you all then. Thank you all so much. Please have a great evening and stay safe as this weather comes in. Thank you, Spencer.